Nicola Jones, and I'm here to talk about my experiences back in the 80s as part of LGBT History Month. This time in February 1988, on the 20th of February to be precise, was the Clause 28 rally in Manchester, which became a pivotal and very momentous occasion for the LGBT plus community. So how did I come to be at the Clause 28 rally back in '88? The background was that I'd been working in retail at a place called Habitat, still just about around, very trendy at the time, seemed to be very modern thinking, but actually was quite old-fashioned in lots of other ways. You recognise that places were sometimes accepting, sometimes not. I then went on to do a secretarial course, and I was working in bars in Manchester. Really exciting time to be part of Manchester clubbing scene. Hacienda was at its height, but I was choosing to go to a club around the corner called Archway, which was a gay club, where high energy was emerging as the music of choice, and suddenly dominated the charts in '87 with the likes of Divine and Bananarama, Boy George, and lots of other artists that you'll recognise even now were forerunners of the gay song writers of this century. Years and years, I would say, is probably the most dominant one now. But at the time, it was a new thing, and acceptance seemed to be on the horizon. Lots of tolerance about the LGBT community. I won't say acceptance, more tolerance. But then the AIDS epidemic hit, and as a direct result, there was a lot of backlash against that community. People were being victimised in the street. I had friends who had acid thrown on them on the way out on a night out, and clubs were in decline because the numbers were dwindling, because people were ill and dying. In the workplace, that was really dominant, and the misinformation was just rife. The newspapers were awful. There's dreadful headlines about the gay plague. Celebrities such as Freddie Mercury, Kenny Everett, etc. were receiving dreadful hate pieces in the press. And the only way of getting information was through leaflets. There was no social media, there was no TV programmes about it. It was just, a chasm of nothingness. Margaret Thatcher was in power and bringing in Clause 28 as legislation against educating children about LGBT issues. This was against everything that all of my friends stood for in terms of trying to educate people about what AIDS was really about and how it was being spread, and obviously trying to prevent that spread through education. So the rally was organised both in Manchester and London, and I think there were some others elsewhere. But those two were the biggest, and the Manchester rally was the biggest rally ever organised on any political issue in Manchester. So it did bring about its own levels of change, but sadly the petition against Clause 28 didn't work, and the Act went ahead. So here we are in 2022, and what's changed since 1988? Well, thankfully, Clause 28 was revoked back in 2003. Another legislation has been brought in, which is much more positive for the LGBTQ plus community, including gay marriage, etc. I have friends who now have twins that they've adopted. There was no issue over that, which is a real great improvement from the days of the late 80s. I've also been a trustee of a local pride as a straight ally and been welcomed into that community. And here at Walker Morris, I've recently joined and was very pleased to see that we have Horizons as a group that can try and make a difference internally and externally as an organisation.